The wind did not sound like weather anymore. It sounded like something that had picked up her scent. Alma Redfern felt the mare stumble beneath her, and she knew. She knew the way a mother knows. If the horse went down in this snow, her boy went down with it, and nothing in these mountains would find them before spring. Behind her, 6-year-old Silas pressed his face against her coat. His small hands were no longer shaking. That frightened her more than the storm. "Stay with me, baby," she whispered. "Stay awake." He did not answer. She pulled the reins hard to the left because the trail was gone. The sky was gone. Even the pines that had lined the pass an hour ago had vanished behind curtains of white. She could no longer feel her feet inside her boots. She could no longer remember which direction they had come from. Only one thought stayed clear. If she stopped, the mountain would bury them quietly before morning. So she kept moving. 11 months ago, she had buried her husband beside a small church in Willow Creek. She had sold the ranch, sold the plow, sold the 2 milk cows Wesley had named after his mother and his sister. She had packed 1 trunk of books, 1 canvas, satchel of clothes, and 1 leather notebook that used to be his. The notebook was the only thing she refused to sell. She had told herself the West would be quieter than her grief, that a school teacher's salary in a town called Willow Junction would give her boy a roof, a stove, a future. The West had other plans. The wagon train had scattered 2 hours ago. She had heard the crack of a wheel, a shout, then nothing, then the snow. The snow came sideways, then upward, then from everywhere at once. And by the time she turned Bella's head to find the others had already been swallowed. She was alone with a 6-year-old in a mare with the strained foreleg. Alma dismounted. Her boots sank to the knee. "Come here, baby. Come to Mama." She lifted Silas down from the saddle. He weighed almost nothing in his winter coat. His cheeks were the color of skimmed milk. "Look at me," she said. "Silas, look at Mama." His eyes opened halfway. "Good boy. We're going to walk now. Just a little walk. Mama needs you to walk with her." She tucked him inside the front of her coat as far as the buttons would allow. She wrapped the reins around her wrist, and she started forward. 1 step, then another, because there was no other option, because turning back meant nothing but more snow, because the horse was limping, because her boy was quiet, because quiet was the thing that killed children in country like this. The valley opened suddenly. One moment there were cliffs above her. The next the wind seemed to bend around something. The gale grew softer. The snow drifted instead of stinging. She could hear her own breath again. That silence frightened her more than the storm had. She stopped walking. She looked up, and then she saw it, a thin ribbon of gold, half buried in the hillside. Not sunlight, not lightning, a window, a single window glowing warm behind a wall of drifted snow. Alma blinked. She was certain her eyes had invented it. But the light stayed, steady, patient, waiting. She looked harder, and she saw the shape now. A cabin, built into the earth itself. Only a stone chimney, 1 narrow window, and part of a snow-covered roof escaped the drift. Gray smoke curled upward in slow ribbons. Someone was alive down there. Bella lifted her head. The mare had smelled the smoke before Alma had seen it. "Come on, girl," Alma whispered. "One more." The slope down was not a slope so much as a suggestion. Old wagon ruts had disappeared beneath winter, roots hid beneath the snow, stones rolled under her boots. Twice she almost went down. Twice Bella steadied her with the weight of her shoulder. By the time they reached the bottom, Alma was crying. She had not noticed. The cabin was older than the valley itself. Massive pine logs locked together so tightly no daylight could pass between them. Stone walls disappeared into the hillside behind it. Whoever had built the place had built it for storms exactly like this one. A lean-to stable rested against the back wall. Alma pushed the door open first. Warm air rushed out. Hay, leather, the clean smell of a well-kept animal. Inside stood 1 large bay horse, calm, healthy. Its saddle hung neatly on a peg, a lantern already burned from the center beam. Someone loved this place. She led Bella inside. She unsaddled the mare with hands so cold she could not feel the buckles. She covered Bella with a dry blanket folded on a stall rail. She rubbed the strained leg with the flat of her palm until the mare relaxed. "You saved us," Alma whispered to the horse. "You saved him." The mare lowered her head into fresh hay. Silas had not moved. That was when Alma ran. She stumbled across the yard, half dragging her boy, and pounded on the cabin door with her free hand. Once, twice. Nothing. She waited. Only the wind answered. She pounded again. Nothing. Her fingers wrapped around the iron handle. Unlocked. She hesitated. Walking uninvited into another person's home went against everything she believed, everything her mother had taught her, everything Wesley had said about the mountains and the men who chose to live in them. But her boy was quiet. She opened the door. Warmth hit her face so hard it hurt. A wide stone fireplace filled one end of the room. Orange flames danced across polished logs. Books lined shelves from floor to ceiling. A heavy table stood in the center. Every chair matched. Every tool rested exactly where it belonged. Nothing felt abandoned. Everything felt lived in. Yet nobody stood inside. "Hello," her voice cracked. "Please, my son." Silence. She staggered to the fire and dropped to her knees. She unbuttoned her coat. She peeled back the wool. She pulled Silas free and laid him on the rag rug in front of the flames. His lips were blue. "No, no, 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 baby. Baby, look at mama." She rubbed his hands between her palms. She unwound his scarf. She pressed her cheek to his forehead. He was so cold. Too cold. "Please, please, Silas, please." She heard footsteps, not from outside, from somewhere deeper inside the house. A hidden door opened beside the bookshelves. A tall man stepped into the room. Wood plane in one end, fine sawdust on his sleeves, a fresh scrape across his knuckles. He stopped the moment he saw her. Neither of them spoke. The fire cracked between them. His eyes moved across everything in an instant. Her wet coat, the snow melting into his floor, the mare tracks in the doorway, the boy on the rug. She could no longer hide anything. "He's not waking up," she said. The man set the wood plane down beside the workbench. Slowly, like a man who had learned that sudden movements around frightened animals were the last thing anyone needed. Then he crossed the room in 4 long strides and knelt beside the boy. "May I?" he asked. Alma nodded because she could not speak. He unbuttoned Silas's small coat with hands that were surprisingly gentle for their size. He touched the boy's fingers, his neck, his ears. He lifted one eyelid and lowered it again. "He's cold," the man said. "Not gone, cold." "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." He rose and walked to the fire. He pulled a heavy kettle from the iron hook. He filled a wide clay bowl with warm water. Not hot, warm. "Take his boots off, slow. His socks too. Put his feet in this, ankles first, then more. His body will scream. Let it scream." She did what he said. Her hands shook so badly she could barely find the laces. The man returned with a folded wool blanket. He laid it across Silas from the waist up. He tucked it under the boy's shoulders. Then he sat back on his heels and simply watched. He never watched her, only the boy. "He's breathing," the man said after a moment. "That's the part that matters." Alma's throat closed. Silas coughed. Then he made a small sound. A whimper. The first sound he had made in nearly an hour. Alma bent over him and pressed her forehead against his and let herself sob. Once. Only once. Because there was still a stranger in the room, and pride was one of the few things the mountains had not taken from her yet. The man rose and walked to the fire. He added a fresh log. He did not look at her while she wept. That more than anything was what made her trust him. When she could speak again, she lifted her head. "Thank you." He did not turn. "Drink." There was a clay mug on the hearthstone beside her now. She had not seen him set it down. Coffee, black, steam curling from the rim. She wrapped both hands around it. The heat climbed slowly through her fingers. The man crouched by the fire. "Your horse?" he asked. "In the stable. She's limping." "Front leg." "Yes." "I'll look at her when the boy's color comes back." "Thank you," she said again. He nodded once. Then he said, "My name is Jonas Whitmore." His voice carried the rough edges of a man who had spoken more to mountains than to people. "Alma Redfern," she said. He did not react, not a flicker, not a blink, not a twitch of the jaw, but she saw the way his hand paused on the iron poker. Only for a heartbeat. Then it moved again. She would remember that heartbeat later. She would remember it for a long time. Silas made another small sound. "Mama." Alma nearly dropped the cup. "I'm here, baby. I'm right here." "Where?" "A warm house. We're safe." His eyes opened. halfway, then more. He looked up at her, then past her, at the tall man crouched by the fire. "Who's that?" "That's Mr. Whitmore," Alma said. "He found us." "You found us," Jonas corrected. "Quiet, certain. The mountain lets people find what they need to find." Silas thought about that with all the seriousness of a 6-year-old. Then he asked, "Do you have any bread?" Jonas rose, and for the first time since Alma had entered the cabin, the corner of his mouth lifted. Not a smile. Something older. Something rustier. "I do." He returned with a small plate, bread still warm, a slice of yellow cheese, a spoonful of dark honey. "Small bites," he said, slow. Silas obeyed. Alma watched her son eat. She watched his color begin to return. She watched Jonas Whitmore fold a second blanket and slide it under the boy's head without ever quite touching him. She watched a stranger care for her child like a man who remembered how. That was the moment she began to notice the rest of the room. The room was beautiful in the way certain lonely rooms are beautiful. Every shelf had been built by hand. There were maps rolled and tied with leather cords. There were carved wooden boxes stacked in careful pyramids. There were books, so many books. Her eyes stopped on a rocking chair beside the far window. A faded blue shawl rested across the back of it, folded, neat, waiting for a woman who was not there. Her eyes moved up. On a high shelf above the rocking chair sat a small wooden horse. Beside it a rag doll with a stitched pink mouth. Both dusted, both untouched. Above the fireplace a framed photograph faced the wall. Not fallen, placed. Alma looked away. Some memories asked not to be disturbed. Jonas returned to the fire. "You'll stay," he said, not asking. She swallowed. "Only until the storm breaks. 3 days at least." 3 days. That storm owns these mountains now. It won't give them back before Sunday. "I'll work," she said. "I can cook. I can mend. I won't be a burden." "You're not a burden." "I found. You're a mother in a storm with a child. That's not a burden. That's a duty." He said it the way a carpenter announces the length of a beam. Flat, final. Alma looked at him properly for the first time. I was somewhere in his early 40s. Weathered in the way outdoor men weather. Hair the color of iron with more iron than color. Eyes that had learned not to expect much. Hands that had learned to build things anyway. And there was something else. Something under all of it. A wound. She recognized it because she carried the same one. He rose. "I'll see to your horse." "I'll come. You'll stay." "Mr. Whitmore." "Jonas. Jonas, my boy. Your boy needs his mother beside him when he wakes up all the way. That's the job right now." She could not argue with that. He pulled on a heavy coat. He opened the door. A blast of white air pushed into the room. He stepped out. The cabin exhaled. Silas was asleep again. Real sleep this time. Warm sleep. His cheeks pink instead of pale. His breath even. His small hand curled around a corner of the wool blanket. Alma pressed her palm to her mouth and did not move for a long time. When she could move again, she stood. She walked to the bookshelves. Journals. Every leather journal marked with a year. She counted backwards. The oldest was 19 years ago. The newest this winter. 9 winters of them sat in a straight, unbroken row on the middle shelf. Then a gap. Then more. The gap was 2 years wide. Someone had stopped writing for 2 years and then started again. She understood that better than she wanted to. Beside the journals sat rolled paper tied with leather straps. She could see the edges of drawings inside. Careful lines, measured angles. She recognized blueprints when she saw them. Wesley had loved blueprints. Her throat tightened. A floorboard creaked behind her. She stepped back from the shelf as if she had been caught doing something wrong. Jonas closed the door quietly. Snow clung to his shoulders. "Your mare will live." The legs strained, not broken. "Thank you." "You looked at the drawings," he said, not accusing. "I didn't touch them." "I didn't say you did." She swallowed. "My husband was an engineer, before the war." He was quiet for a moment, then he said, "I know." Her breath stopped. Turned to face him, fully, slowly. "You know," he walked past her to the table. He did not meet her eyes. He picked up a rolled blueprint. He set it down again. He was buying seconds. Then he lifted his head. "Wesley Redfern," he said. The name landed in the room like a stone dropped into still water. Alma stepped back. Her hand found the edge of the table. How do you know my husband's name? Jonas Whitmore looked at her, and for the first time she saw something in his face that had nothing to do with kindness, or duty, or a stranger's careful courtesy. She saw grief. Old grief. The kind that lives in a man's shoulders long after he stops carrying it consciously. I knew him, Jonas said. I rode with him. 3 years. He saved my life. Alma's knees nearly gave. She sat down hard on the wooden bench beside the table. Wesley had never spoken about the war, not once. Not when she asked, not when she cried. Now here was a stranger, in a hidden valley, in a cabin no one had told her about, speaking her dead husband's name like he had earned the right. How she started, not tonight. Please, not tonight. Your boy needs you awake in the morning, and you need sleep more than you need answers. He was right. She hated that he was right. He turned toward the small kitchen. She heard him ladle stew into a bowl. He brought it to her. Beef, potatoes, carrots, wild herbs. The smell alone almost undid her. She ate. He did not watch her eat. That courtesy again. When she was finished, he took the bowl. He washed it. He set it upside down on a folded towel to dry. She stood. Where should I? There's a bedroom through that door. It's yours as long as you need it. Bring the boy. There's a small trundle bed under the frame. She carried Silas in her arms. She laid him on the trundle. She tucked the quilt to his chin. She kissed his forehead. Jonas paused in the doorway. He did not enter the bedroom. Mrs. Redfern? Alma! Alma! She turned. He looked at her son. He looked at the small blue shawl she could see through the doorway. You're safe here, he said. Both of you. That much I can promise. He closed the door. She sat on the edge of the bed for a long time. She reached into the satchel she had dropped beside the bed. Her fingers closed around the leather notebook. Wesley's. She had carried it every day for 11 months. She had not opened it, not once. She opened it anyway. Inside the front cover in her husband's careful hand were 3 words she had never noticed before. For Jonas Whitmore. Alma stopped breathing. She turned the page. Blank. She turned the next. Also blank. Every page, every single page. Blank. The whole notebook was empty, except for those 3 words on the inside of the front cover. Her husband had carried a blank notebook through the entire war and addressed it without ever telling her to a man she had never heard of. She closed the notebook. She slid it under her pillow. She lay down beside her son. Then she heard something else. A tap, pause, a tap. The steady rhythm of a carving knife working through wood. Jonas Whitmore was awake again, in his workshop, alone. She lay very still. She listened for a long time. And somewhere between the 8th tap and the 9th, she made a promise to herself. She would not leave this hidden valley. Not when the storm broke. Not when Bella healed. Not when the pass reopened. Not until she found out why a man she had never met was carving something in the dead of night. She closed her eyes, and Alma Redfern, 29 years old widow of a man she had loved and buried and apparently never fully known, fell into the first real sleep she had known in 11 months. She only understood in that last thin moment before sleep took her that the stranger in the next room was crying, very quietly, the way a man cries when he has not been allowed to cry in front of anyone for a very, very long time. Morning came without a sun. Alma opened her eyes to gray light and the smell of wood smoke. For one long moment, she did not know where she was. Then she heard Silas breathing beside her. Small, steady, alive. She remembered everything. She sat up slowly. She was warm. Warm all the way through. She had not been this warm in 11 months. Silas stirred. Mama, I'm here. Where? The warm house, baby. Remember. He remembered. His eyes widened. He sat up fast. Is the horseman still here? Alma almost laughed. She caught it in her throat. His name is Jonas. Jonas. Yes. I like him. 6 years old, 12 hours of acquaintance, a verdict already delivered. She kissed the top of her son's head and did not tell him what she was thinking. Which was that she liked him too. Which was that liking a man in a hidden valley you were not meant to find was the kind of foolishness that got widows into trouble. She rose. She dressed. She smoothed her hair with her fingers because she did not have a comb. She lifted Silas from the trundle bed. She opened the door. Jonas was at the stove. He had been up for hours. The fire in the hearth had been fed. The floor had been swept. There were fresh biscuits under a cloth on the table. 2 cups of coffee already poured. Morning. Morning. Did you sleep? Yes. She hesitated. Did you go? Enough. She knew that answer meant no. Silas ran to the table. He climbed into a chair without asking. He looked at the biscuits like they were something out of a storybook. May I? He whispered to his mother. Alma nodded. He took one. He looked at Jonas. Butter's in the crock, Jonas said. Honey's beside it. Don't eat too fast. Your stomach shrunk yesterday. Silas nodded solemnly, like a soldier receiving an order. Alma sat across from her son. She wrapped her hands around the coffee. She watched Jonas move around the kitchen, the way he opened drawers, the way he closed them with the side of his hip, the way he never stood with his back fully to the room. A man who lived alone, a man who had learned to keep a house because no one else would. She thought of Wesley. She stopped thinking of Wesley because it hurt too much to compare. After breakfast, Jonas reached for his coat. The mare needs to move, slow, just around the paddock. I'll take her. I'll come. You've walked enough. I want to come. He looked at her. He nodded. Silas jumped up. Me too. You condo, Jonas said. Have a job. Stay by the fire. Keep it fed. 1 log every 15 minutes. Not 2. Can you count to 15? Silas puffed out his small chest. 20. Perfect. You're in charge of the whole cabin. Silas beamed like he had been promoted to sheriff. Alma bit her lip so she would not cry. They walked to the stable together. The snow was up to her thighs in places. Jonas had already broken a path. She stepped where he stepped. He did not offer his hand. She did not ask for it. But when she slipped once near the door, he steadied her by the elbow without a word and released her the moment she was upright. Inside the stable, Bella lifted her head. Hello, girl. Jonas ran his palm down the mare's foreleg. Swelling's down. She'll be sound in a week. Alma stroked the mare's neck. She looked at Jonas over the horse's back. You said tonight, she said quietly. Yesterday. You said not tonight. You meant today. Jonas kept his hand on the horse's leg. He did not look up. I meant today. Then tell me. Here. Yes. Not out here. Come with me. He led her not back to the cabin but to the workshop. She had not been inside it yet. He opened the door and stood aside. She stepped in. She stopped. The workshop was another world. Warmer than the cabin, somehow. Every wall held tools arranged in perfect order. Chisels by size, planes by size, saws hung on wooden pegs like sleeping birds. Wood shavings covered the floor in curls the color of pale honey. And in the far corner, alone in the light of the one narrow window, stood a child's cradle, smooth as glass, rocking gently on its own from the draft of the door. Empty. Alma looked away from it, because looking at it hurt in a place she did not have a name for. Jonas closed the door behind her. He walked to the workbench. He picked up a piece of cedar. He turned it in his hands. A name, carved, complete. Wesley Redfern. He set it down between them. Ask, he said. She swallowed. Why? Why what? Why his name? Why here? Why you? He was quiet for a long moment. Then he opened a drawer under the workbench and pulled out a small wooden box. He set it beside the cedar. He opened the lid. Inside were photographs, 3 of them, faded, curled at the edges. He handed her the top one. 3 young men in uniform. One of them was Wesley, younger than she had ever seen him, grinning at the camera like a boy who had not yet learned what a war could do. The man beside him was Jonas, younger, not yet iron-haired. The third man she did not recognize. Boy, really, not more than 19. Bright dark eyes, a crooked grin, arms slung around Wesley's shoulder like a brother. Who's the third, she said. My brother, Elias. Where is he? Jonas took the photograph back gently. Same winter Wesley died. Different valley. Same men who killed him. Alma sat down on the workbench stool because her legs would not hold her. Same men. Same men. She stared at the piece of cedar. Tell me, she said, all of it. From the beginning. Jonas leaned back against the wall opposite her. He crossed his arms, not defensive, steadying himself. Wesley and I served under a man named Ezra Vance, cavalry officer. Ambitious, cruel in a quiet way. He liked being liked. He was very good at seeming decent. He was not decent. Alma waited. For 3 years, the three of us rode together. Wesley, me, Elias when he came of age and joined up. We ran supply routes. We escorted engineers. We built bridges. Wesley designed most of what we built. He was the smartest man in that company. Vance knew it. Vance did not like it. Why not? Because Wesley took notes. Every requisition, every shortage, every crate of medicine that arrived and then quietly disappeared before it reached a hospital tent. Alma's hand tightened on the edge of the bench. Vance was stealing. Vance was stealing, selling it back to civilian traders, pocketing the difference, doing it for years. Wesley knew. I knew. Elias was starting to know. The three of us had put the whole picture together by that last winter. We were going to bring it up the chain the following spring. You didn't get to spring. No, we didn't. Alma closed her eyes. Tell me the rest. Jonas took a slow breath. There was a mission, delivered dispatches through the northern pass. Bad weather, bad terrain, the kind of job that has more chances to kill you than not. Vance assigned it to me. You. Me, because he wanted me gone, because I was the loudest of the three. I was the target. But Wesley went. I was sick, fever, couldn't sit a horse, could barely stand. Vance came to the tent. He looked pleased. He said the ride would go forward anyway. He said someone had to go in my place. Wesley volunteered. No, Alma opened her eyes. No. Jonas shook his head, slowly. Vance ordered him, in front of me, in front of the whole tent. He looked Wesley in the eye and he said, Redfern, you know the pass. Ride in Whitmore's place. That's an order. And Wesley knew. Knew what? Knew it was a trap. Knew there were men waiting in that pass. Knew he wasn't coming back. Alma pressed her fist to her mouth. He said yes anyway. He looked at me. He smiled. He said, I'll be back before you're on your feet. Then he walked out of that tent, and he did not come back. The workshop was very quiet. There were men in the pass, Jonas said. His voice had gone very flat. 3 of them. Paid, not soldiers. Vance had sent them ahead. He needed me dead. He got Wesley instead. Alma could not speak. Wesley took 2 of them with him. The 3rd came back to Vance and reported. That man drank himself to death years later. Before he died, he told the whole story to a bartender who happened to be the cousin of a man I trusted. That is how I know what I know. And Elias. Jonas closed his eyes. Elias put it together 6 months later. He confronted Vance in a supply depot, alone. That was his mistake. 2 days later, my brother was found at the bottom of a ravine. Horse fell, they said. Elias was the finest horseman in the company. His horse had never fallen in 3 years. Alma was crying. She had not noticed when it started. You've been alone with this, she said. All this time, all alone. Not alone. Vance knows I know. He has always known. He has just never known where I was. Until now. Until now, she stared at the cedar piece on the workbench. That's why you carved his name. I carved the names of the men I could not save. Elias, Wesley, others. There are a lot of names and a lot of drawers in this workshop. Every winter, I finish another one. It's the only thing I know how to do. She stood up. She walked to him. She stopped a step away. Look at me. He looked at her. You did not kill my husband. He did not answer. You hear me, Jonas Whitmore? You did not kill him. Ezra Vance killed him. You did not send him. You did not lift a hand against him. You lay in a fever tent and watched a good man walk out to save your life. And you have carried that walk on your back for a year. And that is not the same thing as killing him. His jaw moved. Once, he did not speak. You hear me? I hear you. Say it. Alma, say it. I did not kill him. He was shaking, just barely. She could see it in his hands. She wanted to touch him. She did not. There were rules about these things. She stepped back. There's more, she said. Isn't there? Yes. Tell me. He walked to the window. He looked out at the snow. Vance came here yesterday because he already knew who you were. He didn't come for me. He came to see you. How did he? He's been tracking you for 11 months, since the day the War Office released Wesley's death notice to the papers. He's been writing to you. Alma went cold, not from the room, from inside. The letters, Jonas turned. What letters? 3 letters, Willow Creek, postmarked from a place I didn't recognize, signed with a name I didn't know, words too kind for a stranger. I burned all 3. I never wrote back. Jonas said one word, very quietly. Vance. Vance. I wanted to reach you before I could. Before you could, Jonas looked at her. Wesley made me promise that last night, before the ride, he handed me his notebook, empty except for my name. He said, if I don't come back, find her. Find Alma. She'll be strong. She'll survive. But she'll need one friend in the world who knew me before the war. And Vance will come for her. He always circles back to what belongs to men he's killed. Find her, for he does. Alma sank onto the stool again. He knew, she whispered. Wesley knew Vance would come for me. He knew. And you promised. I promised. And you didn't come. No. Why? Jonas's face broke. Just for a second. Because I was ashamed. Because I could not stand in front of the woman my friend died to protect. Because every day for a year I told myself tomorrow. Because I am a coward, Alma. I hide in a workshop and carve names into cedar because it is easier than looking a widow in the face. And yet, she said, here I am. Here you are. So the mountain kept your promise for you. He did not answer, but something in his face changed, something small, something that had been closed for a very long time. Not open yet, just unlatched. She rose. I need air. She left the workshop. She stood in the yard for a long time. She let the cold slap her face. She let her mind race. Wesley, her Wesley, who had told her nothing, who had carried a blank notebook addressed to a man she had never heard of, who had known on the night before he died that she would need a friend, who had chosen this man to be that friend, and Ezra Vance, who had murdered her husband, who had murdered a boy named Elias, who had been writing her letters, who had watched her son yesterday the way a man watches a horse he is planning to buy. Alma put her hand on the paddock fence to steady herself. She heard footsteps behind her. Not Jonas, wagon wheels, hooves, voices. She turned. 3 riders were coming up the road from the valley pass. 2 she did not recognize, the one in front she did. Ezra Vance. He rode straight-backed, impeccable. His coat was clean despite the snow. His hat was the color of expensive things, a hand that had signed her husband's death. Jonas came out of the workshop behind her. Get inside, Jonas said. Low, no. Alma, no, he will not chase me into a house today. Jonas came to stand beside her. Not in front, beside. The riders stopped 10 yards short of the cabin. Vance dismounted. His men stayed mounted, rifles across their saddles. Mrs. Redfern, Mr. Whitmore, good morning. Neither of them answered. Vance smiled anyway, a patient smile. I wanted to check on you both. After yesterday's storm, I wanted to make sure the widow and the boy were faring well. We're fine, Alma said. I'm relieved to hear it. You can leave now. Vance's smile did not move. I've come, he said with news, and an offer, for each of you. He turned to Jonas first. I've filed the deed transfer with the county clerk. My mineral rights on this valley are executed. I want to buy this cabin from you at a fair price. You'd be a free man. No, consider it. No, Vance nodded slowly. You have 30 days. Then he turned to Alma. Mrs. Redfern, may I speak with you privately? No, it concerns your late husband. Especially not. Vance raised one eyebrow, amused. I understand Whitmore has been telling you stories. He has been telling me truth. Ah, yes, ah. Vance took one step closer. Jonas moved half a step in front of her. Vance stopped. Whitmore's version of events is understandably colored by grief. Consider the source. Alma took one step forward, past Jonas. Consider your own source, she said. Colonel Vance, you wrote me 3 letters. His smile flickered, just once. I am unaware. Willow Creek, last spring, last summer, last fall. 3 letters, signed with a false name. I burned all 3. I did not think of them again until yesterday when you stood in this doorway looking at my son the way a wolf looks at a lamb. Vance did not answer. His men shifted in their saddles. You murdered my husband, she said. Quiet, steady. You murdered a boy named Elias. You have been circling my life for 11 months. You did not come here today. to check on the widow. You came here to close a hand. And I am telling you now in front of God and this snow and these two men behind you that you will not close it. Not on me, not on my boy, not on Jonas Whitmore, not on one more life you think belongs to you. The silence that followed was the deepest silence she had ever stood inside. Vance smiled, warmly. You are a remarkable woman, Alma Redfern. Truly, your husband spoke of your fire. Don't say his name. You'll want to reconsider your position. Alone in these mountains, with a small boy, a strained horse, and a man who is about to lose the roof over his head. A woman in your situation has fewer options than she thinks. My offer to you was going to be simple. My name, my protection, my home in Willow Junction. A father for your boy. Alma slapped him, open palm, full swing, across the side of his face. The sound cracked across the yard like a rifle shot. His men reached for their rifles. Jonas stepped forward. Don't, Jonas said, very quietly. To the two men, not to Vance. They did not. Vance turned his head back slowly. His cheek was already reddening. He touched it with 2 fingers. He was still smiling. You'll change your mind. I won't. You will. He mounted his horse in one smooth movement. He tipped his hat. He turned his horse. He rode away. Alma did not lower her hand until the 3 riders had disappeared into the trees. Then her whole body began to shake. Jonas caught her elbow. Inside. Yes. They went inside. Silas was at the table. He had heard every word through the front window. He looked up at his mother with eyes far older than 6. Mama, I'm all right, baby. Is that the bad man? Alma stopped. Yes, Silas, that is the bad man. Silas nodded slowly. He looked at Jonas. Is he the one who hurt Papa? Jonas looked at Alma. Alma looked at Jonas. Then she knelt beside her son. She took his small hands in hers. Yes, baby, he is. Silas did not cry. He looked at his mother's face for a long time. Then he looked at Jonas. Are you going to stop him? Jonas crouched down beside them. He put his hand on the boy's shoulder for the first time, very lightly. Yes. Both of you. Both of us, Alma said. Silas nodded, once. Then he went back to his biscuit. That afternoon, an old woman knocked at the door. Delphine Monroe, bundled to the eyes in gray wool, a basket over her arm. Jonas let her in without a word. Delphine took one look at Alma's face and set the basket down. He came already. He came. Delphine sat heavily at the table. She was 70 at least. Her hands were spotted with age, but strong. Then I'll tell you what I did not tell you last night, because now you need to know. She looked at Jonas. You never told her about Ruth. No, he said. You never told her about the little one. No. Then I will. Jonas closed his eyes. Delphine turned to Alma. Her voice was gentle. That was the worst part. 9 winters ago, Jonas had a wife. Ruth. She was my niece. Sharp-eyed, sharp-tongued, and they had a little girl, Sarah, 4 years old, cheeks like apples, laughed like a bell. Alma felt Jonas go still beside her. You've been told the child died of fever. That is what the county was told. That is not what happened. Delphine, Jonas said, very quietly. Hush, she needs to hear it, and so do you. 9 winters is enough. He did not stop her again. Ezra Vance owned an interest in the mining company that was starting to run this valley then. Ruth had begun to write letters, loud letters, to the newspaper, about wages, about safety. Vance came out here in person. He sat at this very table. He drank Ruth's coffee. He left. 2 days later, Sarah was dead. And 2 weeks after that, Ruth was dead. Both of them of fever. The doctor was Vance's man. The undertaker was Vance's man. Ruth had gone to the mayor of Willow Junction with proof of the theft before she died. She had ledgers. All of that disappeared the day she was buried. Alma could not breathe. He killed them, she whispered. He killed them. He killed a child. He killed a child. Alma turned to Jonas. His face was gray, the color of a man who has just been told for the first time in 9 years the true shape of the thing he has been carrying. You didn't know, she said. I didn't know. You never knew. I never knew. I thought it was fever. I thought God had... He stopped. He put his hand over his mouth. His shoulders began to shake. Alma had never in her life watched a man break in front of her. Jonas broke. He sank onto the bench. He bent forward. He pressed his forehead against the table. And a sound came out of him that Alma would remember for the rest of her days. Not a sob, something older than sobs, something torn. Silas climbed down from his chair. He walked to Jonas. He put both small hands on Jonas's arm. He did not speak. He just stood there, a 6-year-old boy keeping watch over a broken man. Delphine reached across the table and took Alma's hand. "Now you know," she said, "why the mountain sent you here." Alma looked at Jonas. She looked at her son. She looked at the old woman across the table. Something inside her hardened, not cold, not cruel. Hard the way a bone knits, harder after it has been broken. "Delphine," she said, "yes, child, how far to Willow Junction on foot in this snow?" "2 days if you are strong." "I am strong." "You are." "Do you know a newspaper, man? Anywhere. Not Vance's paper. A real one." Delphine's eyes narrowed. A slow, terrible smile spread across her face. "I know one, in Chicago. He owes me a favor from 1868 that he has not been given a chance to repay. Write to him. Tonight. Tell him everything. Tonight." Alma turned to Jonas. He had lifted his head. His eyes were red, but he was listening. "Jonas." "Yes." "The men who rode with you, who served under Vance, who knew, who are still alive. How many?" "5 that I know of. 6 if Amos Kettler is still living. He was coughing badly the last I heard." "Can you find them?" "I can." "Will they come?" He looked at her for a long moment. "They will come. If I ask, if I tell them why." "Then tell them why." He nodded, slowly. Then he stood up. She had never seen him stand quite like that. Not stooped, not braced against invisible weather. He stood the way a man stands when he has finally set something down. Or picked something up. "Alma." "Yes." "He will burn this place first. When he sees the letters go out, he will send men. He will take the workshop. He will try to take you." "I know. You should take the boy and go to Willow Junction now, before the road closes again." "No." "Alma, no, I'm not running from him. My son will not grow up on the run from the man who killed his father. We hold this ground, all 3 of us, together." Jonas looked at her. He looked at her a long time, and then very quietly he said something she had not expected him to say. Something no man had said to her in 11 months. Something Wesley had said once on the day she had told him she was carrying his child. He said, "Yes, ma'am." 2 small words. The entire shape of a promise inside them. Delphine rose. She wrapped her shawl. "I'll come tomorrow with the letter, and with more names. There are others in this valley who have not forgotten either. It is time we stop forgetting quietly." She stopped at the door. "Child, do you understand what you have just started?" Alma nodded. "I do." "You will not stop until it is finished." "No, ma'am, I will not." "Then God be with you." "And with you." Delphine went out into the snow. Jonas closed the door behind her. The 3 of them stood in the warm room. The fire cracked. Silas leaned against Alma's leg. She looked at Jonas across the room. He looked at her. "Jonas." "Yes." "Tonight you will not sleep in your workshop. You will sleep in this house. Because there is a war coming, and a man who has just remembered he is not alone should not sleep alone." He nodded. And that night, for the first time in 9 winters, Jonas Whitmore did not carve until dawn. He slept. Not well, not deeply, but he slept. Somewhere south of them, in a big warm house in Willow Junction, Ezra Vance was pouring himself a brandy and writing a letter to a judge he owned. He did not yet know that a widow with cold hands and a hot heart had just declared war on him. He would find out. Soon. They came in the dark. Alma smelled the smoke before she heard the horses. She sat up in bed. Silas was asleep beside her. The wind had gone quiet 3 hours ago. Too quiet. "Jonas." Her voice was already at the bedroom door. "Jonas." He was in the hallway before she finished the second word. Fully dressed, rifle in his hand, he had smelled it too. "Get the boy." "Where? Root cellar, under the kitchen, trap door, now." She lifted Silas from the bed. He mumbled. She pressed her hand over his mouth. Not hard, just enough. The kitchen was already orange, not the fire in the hearth. That was banked to coals. The orange was outside, painting the walls the color of a nightmare. The workshop. The workshop was burning. Alma made a sound she did not know she owned. Jonas ripped up a rag rug. Underneath was a heavy wooden trapdoor. He hauled it open. Down, both of you. Do not come up until I come for you. Jonas, Alma, you cannot go out there alone. I am not going to fight them. I am going to see how many. Then I am coming back. Promise me. I promise. She climbed down the ladder with Silas on her hip. She set him on a folded blanket in the corner. She kissed his forehead. Baby, you will stay here. You will not make a sound. Do you understand? Yes, Mama. You are the bravest boy in this valley. She climbed back up. She closed the trap door. She dropped the rug back over it. She picked up the iron poker from the hearth. She went to the window. The workshop was gone. The roof had already collapsed. Flames were reaching 30 feet into the black sky. The bay gelding was screaming from the stable. Jonas was cutting the ropes with one hand, opening the stable door, driving the horses out into the snow. Bella came out first. She ran 20 yards and stopped and looked back for Alma. Alma pressed her palm to the glass. There were 4 riders at the edge of the trees. She could just see them in the light of the fire. Hoods up, rifles across their laps. They were watching, not shooting, just watching, which meant Vance wanted them to see, which meant the fire was a message, not a killing, not yet. She stayed at the window until the last beam of the workshop fell. 9 winters of work, every blueprint, every carved name, the cradle, the photographs, all of it, gone. Jonas walked back across the yard, slow, not defeated, just slow, like a man who has decided to save the running for later. He came inside. He closed the door. His face was black with soot. His eyebrows were singed. He looked at her. They rode off. I know. They wanted us to see. I know. She set the poker down. She walked to him. She lifted a clean cloth from the table. She wet it in the kitchen basin. She came back, and she washed the soot from his face. Slowly, carefully. He did not stop her. When she was done, she folded the cloth. She looked up at him. Now we begin, she said. Yes. They rode out at gray light. Silas bundled in front of Alma on Bella, Jonas on the bay. Alma did not look back at the smoldering yard. Delphine met them at her gate. In. Then she said, the telegram went out at 8 last night. The reply came at 11. He is coming himself, not a stringer. He is on the train. When? 4 days, maybe 5. Alma put her hand on the doorframe, because for the first time in 3 days, someone else had done something. Delphine's kitchen smelled of coffee and bread and something else. Iron. Cleaning oil. Alma looked toward the corner. 2 rifles. Cleaned, loaded, standing against the wall. Beside them a shotgun. Delphine saw her looking. 9 winters, the old woman said. Of waiting, I did not sit those years empty-handed. Alma smiled, the first real smile in her face in 11 months. The men began to arrive on the 3rd day. The first was Amos Kettler. He was thin. He coughed. He rode up on a mule instead of a horse. He hugged Jonas without a word. He was crying before he had let go. The second was a man named Beauregard Finch. Big shoulders, silver mustache, a limp in his left leg from something old. The 3rd and 4th came together. Brothers. The Hollister brothers, Ephraim and Josiah. Both quiet, both carrying pistols the way farmers carry hammers. The 5th came alone at dusk. His name was Isaac Poe. He was younger than the rest. He had been the youngest man in the company after Elias. He looked at Jonas across Delphine's yard, and Jonas looked back at him, and something passed between them that Alma understood only because she had once been married to a man who came home from a war. The 6th man they had thought was dead. Micah Boone, riding a wagon up the trail on the 4th morning. Alma watched him climb down. He walked with a cane. He was 70 if he was a day. He had ridden 300 miles, 6 men, for Jonas, for Wesley, for Elias, for Ruth, for the child Sarah, for every widow who had ever burned a letter she did not understand. The newspaper man arrived on the 5th day. His name was Ellsworth Gaines. He was 50. He carried a satchel that was too heavy for a man his size. He was tired. He was cold. He was angry in the particular way that reporters get angry when they have been waiting a long time for a real story. Delphine sat him at her kitchen table. She poured him coffee. Alma spoke for 2 hours. She did not cry. She did not stop. She told him about Wesley, about the notebook, about the letters she had burned, about the man in the cabin, about the workshop full of names, about Sarah, about Ruth, about Elias, about the four riders in the fire. Ellsworth Gaines wrote as fast as she talked. When she was done, he set down his pencil. Mrs. Redfern. Yes. I have been a newspaper man for 27 years. I have never in my life been handed a story like this. Print it. I will. When? The day after the hearing, front page above the fold, not one word cut. I will syndicate it in Denver, Kansas City, St. Louis, and San Francisco. Vance will not be able to buy every paper in this country. He is not that rich. She reached across the table. She took his hand. Thank you. The hearing was set for the following Monday. Not a trial, a hearing, land dispute. That was what Vance wanted it called. Because a hearing meant no jury. A hearing meant Judge Cornelius Briggs alone on the bench. Judge Briggs, who owned 200 acres of ranch land sold to him 3 years back by Ezra Vance at a price no one had believed. Vance thought the hearing would take a morning. Vance did not know Ellsworth Gaines was in town. Vance did not know 6 old cavalrymen were sleeping in Delphine Monroe's barn. Vance did not know a lawyer's clerk in Denver had been quietly copying certain territorial ledgers for 4 nights, running under the direction of a Chicago telegram he did not fully understand. Vance did not know a great many things. He was about to. Willow Junction had 130 souls. The morning of the hearing, it had 400. They had ridden in from every farm in the county, from the mining camp, from the 2 churches, from ranches whose owners had never in their lives crossed the courthouse steps. Delphine had sent word. Jonas's men had ridden every road for 3 days delivering it. Word spread the way word only spreads when a place has been waiting. Alma dressed carefully that morning. Black. Her mourning dress, the one she had worn to Wesley's funeral. She had not put it on since. She put it on. Because she was here for a dead man. Because she wanted every soul in that courthouse to remember why. Silas wore his best small coat. His right arm was still in a splint from the winter. He had not cried when the doctor said it. He had not cried once. He was his father's son. Jonas wore a clean shirt, a borrowed jacket. His hair was combed. He looked for the first time since Alma had met him like a man who intended to be seen. They walked to the courthouse together. Alma between Jonas and her son, Delphine behind, the 6 cavalrymen behind her, Ellsworth Gaines with his notebook. The people of Willow Junction lined the boardwalk. They did not cheer. They took off their hats. Alma kept walking. The courthouse was packed. Every bench, every wall, people standing 3 deep at the back. Judge Cornelius Briggs sat on the bench sweating in a heavy black robe. Vance sat at the front table. 2 lawyers beside him. 2 of his men against the wall. He was smiling, confident. He turned when Alma entered. He nodded to her with the polite warmth of a man greeting a lady in church. She did not nod back. She walked to the plaintiff's table. Jonas took the seat beside her. Silas sat behind her. Delphine held the boy's small hand in her old spotted one. Judge Briggs cleared his throat. We are here to consider the matter of mineral rights in land transfer in Cedar Hollow. Colonel Vance has filed, Your Honor, Alma said. The courtroom stopped breathing. Judge Briggs blinked. Mrs. Redfern, you have counsel. I do not. Then you may not address. I will address the court, Your Honor. I will address the court on the matter of the death of my husband, Wesley Redfern, at the direct order of Colonel Ezra Vance last winter. I will address the court on the matter of the death of Elias Whitmore, brother of Jonas Whitmore. I will address the court on the matter of the death of Ruth Whitmore and her 4-year-old daughter Sarah 9 winters ago at the direct order of the same man. And I will address the court on the matter of a fire set 4 nights ago at the property that this court is now being asked to transfer to that same man, Your Honor. I will address the court. The silence was so complete she could hear the pot-belly stove hiss in the corner. Vance rose. Your Honor, this is inflammatory. This is a land hearing. This woman has no standing to Your Honor, Alma said. I have a letter. She lifted an envelope from her bag. This letter is written in my husband's hand. It is dated 2 weeks before his death. It was sealed inside a leather notebook that Colonel Vance did not know existed. It was addressed to me. I would like to read it into the record. Judge Briggs looked at Vance. Vance's smile had gone slightly stiff. "Your Honor," Vance began. "Let her read it," said a voice from the back of the room. Everyone turned. Ellsworth Gaines had risen. He did not look up from his notebook. "For the record, I am Ellsworth Gaines, senior correspondent, Chicago Tribune. Every word spoken in this courtroom will appear in Wednesday's edition." "Let her read it." Judge Briggs looked at his hands. Judge Briggs looked at last at Alma. "You may read it," he said. Alma opened the envelope. Her hands did not shake. She read, "My Alma, if you are reading this, I am not coming home. I want you to know 3 things. I want you to know that I love you more than the sky loves the earth. I want you to know that our boy is the best thing I ever built. And I want you to know the truth of the man who ordered my death. His name is Ezra Vance. He is a colonel in the United States Cavalry. He has been stealing from the Army for 6 years. He has been killing men who noticed. He killed Jonas Whitmore's brother. He tried to kill Jonas. He will kill me tomorrow at the Northern Pass in a mission I have been ordered to take in Jonas's place. I know this. I go anyway, because if I refuse, he will pick another man. And if I refuse loudly, he will pick you. My love, do not stay in Willow Creek. Go west. Find Jonas Whitmore in Cedar Hollow. He is a good man. He will keep his word. Do not trust Ezra Vance. Do not open his letters. Do not speak to him alone. Do not for any reason marry him. He will come for you. He always does. My love, live. Love our boy. Do not spend your life in black. Yours until every mountain in this world falls into the sea, Wesley." The courtroom did not breathe. Alma folded the letter. She looked at Judge Cornelius Briggs. She did not look at Vance. Not once. Then from the back of the courtroom, someone opened the doors. 6 men walked in. Amos Kettler first, coughing softly but upright. Beauregard Finch behind him. The Hollister brothers side by side. Isaac Poe. Micah Boone with his cane. Each of them carried a canvas bag. They walked up the center aisle to Cayum. The crowd parted for them without being asked. They stopped at the front of the courtroom. Amos Kettler set his bag on the plaintiff's table. "Your Honor," he said, his voice was rough. "I was quartermaster's clerk under Colonel Vance from 77 through 80. Inside this bag are the requisition ledgers. Every crate, every wagon, every dollar, every signature. I made copies. Vance did not know I made copies. I have been waiting a long time to give them to somebody who would open them." Beauregard Finch set his bag beside it. "Your Honor, sworn statements, 21 of them. Men who served under Colonel Vance. Men who kept quiet because they had families. Men who are ready to stop keeping quiet." Ephraim Hollister set his bag next. "Your Honor, bank records from a shell company in Denver that received payments from 3 Army posts under Vance's command." Josiah Hollister set his bag next. "Your Honor, testimony from a stagecoach driver who saw Elias Whitmore alive and well 4 hours before he was found at the bottom of a ravine. He is here today, 4th row from the back." Isaac Poe set his bag last. "Your Honor, a letter from the doctor who signed Ruth Whitmore's death certificate. Deathbed confession. He passed last April. His widow held the letter till today." Then Micah Boone limped forward. He did not set a bag down. He simply lifted a small tin from his coat pocket. "Your Honor, this tin contains 3 residues analyzed by a chemist in Cheyenne. The residues were scraped 9 winters ago from a coffee cup and a child's cup in a cabin in Cedar Hollow. Both cups tested for the same compound, a refined arsenic salt, not naturally occurring in this valley, purchased according to a ledger held by a Denver apothecary by an agent of the mining company that Colonel Vance held partial interest in during the year of Ruth Whitmore's death." He set the tin gently on the table. "I have been carrying that tin for 9 years, Your Honor, waiting for a room brave enough to open it." The silence in the courtroom now was the silence of a great tree the moment before it falls. Vance rose. His face was pale. His hands were flat on the table. He was still trying to smile. It was not working. "Your Honor, this is theater. This is coordinated. This woman and this man have—" "Sit down, Colonel." The words came from Judge Briggs. Everyone turned. Judge Cornelius Briggs was on his feet. He had gone very still. He was looking at Alma. He was looking at Silas. He was looking at the small boy with the splint on his arm, sitting behind his mother. Then Judge Briggs reached into the inner pocket of his robe. He removed a fat envelope. He placed it on the bench in front of him. He looked at Vance. Colonel Vance, 2 Thursdays ago, you delivered this envelope to my office. You told me it was a token of your continued regard. You told me my ranch expansion would be looked upon favorably at the next county assessment. I did not open the envelope. I put it in my coat. I have carried it every day since. I have not slept in 6 nights. I could not decide what to do with it. He turned the envelope over. I have decided. He said it in front of Ellsworth Gaines. For the record, Mr. Gaines, please note that Colonel Ezra Vance attempted to bribe a sitting judge 2 weeks ago in the amount of, he opened the envelope, thumbed through it, closed it, $800 in gold notes and the deed to 40 acres of adjoining pasture. I decline the offer. I will submit myself to territorial review at the earliest convenience. I will resign this bench today. But before I do, he turned to Vance. Colonel Ezra Vance, on the strength of the evidence submitted before this court by 6 sworn witnesses, the testimony of a widow and the letter of a dead husband, I hereby order your arrest pending federal transfer to the territorial court in Denver on charges of embezzlement, conspiracy, and murder in the first degree. Vance moved, fast. His hand went inside his coat. 2 things happened at once. Jonas Whitmore stood up, and Isaac Poe drew a pistol from his hip and put a bullet in the wood of the plaintiff's table 3 inches from Vance's hand. Vance froze. His hand came out of his coat empty. Try again, Isaac Poe said very quietly. I am asking you. Vance did not try again. The sheriff of Willow Junction, a man named Toomey, who had never once in his life crossed Ezra Vance, walked slowly up the aisle. He put irons on Vance's wrists. He led him out of the courtroom. The people did not cheer. They stood. That was all. They stood, every single one of them, silent, hats off. As Vance walked past them in chains, Delphine Monroe was crying. Alma was not. She was watching her son. Silas was watching Vance leave the courtroom with the same steady, serious eyes he had watched everything with for 6 days. When the door closed behind Vance, Silas turned to Jonas. He said, "You stopped him." Jonas said, "We stopped him. All of us." Silas thought about that. Then he said, "Good." That was all. 8 months later, the valley was green. Alma stood on the porch of the new schoolhouse in Cedar Hollow. It was small, 2 rooms, a stone chimney, a bell, and a wooden tower. Jonas had built the tower himself. The bell had been donated by a foundry in Denver that had read Ellsworth Gaines's article. The article had run above the fold, 12 columns, reprinted in 43 papers. Ezra Vance had been convicted in Denver on 19 counts. He had been sentenced to a term he would not survive. Federal marshals had opened 3 other investigations against 3 other officers based on Amos Kettler's ledgers. Ruth Whitmore's name had appeared in a territorial assembly resolution. Sarah Whitmore's had too. The land under the cabin was Jonas's. Free and clear, the county had voided every one of Vance's mineral claims. Judge Briggs had resigned and moved to Oregon to farm. A new judge, a woman lawyer from Denver named Miss Amelia Straw, had been appointed to the circuit. 18 children had shown up on opening day of the school. Some had walked 2 hours. One had ridden a mule. Delphine had baked bread for every one of them. Alma had rung the bell. She stood on the porch now in a blue dress instead of a black one and watched the children play in the yard where snow had once been 6 feet deep. Silas was among them. His arm was healed. He was chasing a girl named Louisa, who was faster than he was and always would be. Jonas came up the porch steps behind her. He was carrying a small wooden box. "For you," he said. Alma took it. She opened the lid. Inside were 4 pieces of cedar, each one carved, each one polished. The first read Wesley, the second read Alma, the third read Silas, the fourth was blank. She looked at him. He looked at her. "I did not want to assume," he said. She smiled. She reached into the pocket of her blue dress. She took out a small carving knife. She held it out to him. "Handle first." "Carve," she said. He did not move for a moment. Then he took the knife. He knelt on the porch. He set the blank piece of cedar on his knee, and he began to carve, slowly, carefully. She watched him. She thought about the storm, about the ribbon of gold in the hillside, about her boy's blue lips and the way this stranger had cared for her child before he had known her name. She thought about the 6 old men who had ridden hundreds of miles because one of their brothers had asked. She thought about Sarah Whitmore, who had died at 4, but who now had a schoolhouse full of laughing children built on land nobody could take. She thought about Wesley, about the words, "Do not spend your life in black." She did not cry. She had cried enough. Instead, she reached out, and she put her hand very gently on the back of his neck, where his hair curled into iron at the collar, where the sun had made him warm. He stopped carving. He did not look up. He put down the knife. He covered her hand with his own. His hand was rough, sawdust in the creases, steady. Neither of them spoke. They did not need to. The children shouted in the yard. The bell in the tower moved a little in the wind. The mountain looked down on Cedar Hollow the way it had looked down for 10,000 years. Only this time it looked down on a family, not one built by blood, one built by choice, one built by a widow who had walked into a hidden valley because she had nowhere else to go and had found waiting for her under all that white everything she had not known she was still owed. Alma leaned down. She rested her forehead against Jonas Whitmore's just for a moment, just long enough to feel his breath on her cheek, just long enough to know. Then she straightened. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. She said, "Finish it." He finished it. The fourth piece of cedar, Jonas. He set it in the box beside the others. He closed the lid. Alma held the box against her heart. The bell rang out over Cedar Hollow, and the children came running, and the valley was quiet no more. And somewhere far to the south, in a stone cell in Denver, an old cavalry officer sat alone with his hands on his knees and thought about a widow in a black dress who had told him in front of God and his own men that he would not close a hand on her. He had not believed her. He should have. The end.